Kelsey Mitchell. My father was everything. Everything to me, everything I believed in, and everything I have done. Kelsey Mitchell wrote a letter through the Tribune addressing and thanking the Indiana Fever. Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell, was it just a dream or will it actually happen once again? We'll discuss this and more today on the Money Mike Syndicated Radio podcast. Kelsey Mitchell writes a letter to the from the Tribune thanking the Fever fans and especially thanking those fans who have been in my corner ever since I've been in Indiana. And it's really just something that you got to look at. And if you're a real one, she likes, and then I pulled out a few quotes. If you're a real one, I'll rock with you forever. Real is being a witness to somebody's journey. Wow, wow, wow. Folks, I got a couple ways I could go with this today. Um, and I really want to say that that's a heartfelt letter, and I'm going to bring out some of the things Kelsey said, and it's frustrating. I could see the frustration in Kelsey Mitchell's face while she was playing basketball. She wanted to make a deep run because of her father. Her father was her everything. And folks, this caught me off guard. It really did. I wasn't expecting this. I talked a little bit about Chicago Sky and Tyler Marsh being a father figure. And these African American women, uh, man, you need more father figures. I just got to tell you, because it left her open, and she had a season that she was willing to accept the pain, willing to accept the pain. But then, okay, it came to the point that the pain wasn't worth the value of what she wanted, was a deep playoff run, and that was taken away from her. The benching of the Nalissa Smith, that's a pivotal point right there, because it stopped Kelsey Mitchell, who was playing this season and remaining for her father. You can't replace that, folks. You can't look her in the eye. There's nothing you can do. And this one here is a tough one. The ones who have been there and I have respect for me, even before all, I have nothing but love. Okay, I mean, she's really pointing out some things, and here's where it's got to go. Here's where it's got to go, folks. Indiana Fever. I like the Indiana Fever. I do. I like the Indiana. I like Caitlin Clark. But here's the deal, and I'm a fan of basketball. I mean, I watch enough of it. You can just about bury me in a gym, right? Well, here's the deal. People responded to Kelsey Mitchell, and people said Kelsey Mitchell wasn't very good. And that rang loud, loud. She wasn't very good until Caitlin arrived. I'll tell you one thing: Mitchell's always been good. Okay, and I didn't watch the Indiana Fever, but I went back, started looking. I can tell you what was wrong with the Fever. Your coaching was horrible. Okay, you were the bottom of the barrel in the league, and nobody cared. Okay, now you instructed Mitchell. You never let her play, and this is a rarity. And this one has to be a rarity, because I don't really fault the Fever for this, but they did it anyway, right? You don't bring a point guard in that you had, the guards that you've been having under control with the noose around their neck, right? No, that's the wrong word. I don't want to say that. I say that when I talk to my guys. That's the wrong word, so please excuse me. I want to say you had her hands tied. You didn't let her play. Okay, she didn't really get to play until this year, and then all of a sudden she became a player, but she was playing for her father, right? And now Kelsey Mitchell's been in this league 7 years, getting ready to go to 8 years. And don't get me wrong, Caitlin Clark's a great point guard, generational player, but Mitchell is too. Mitchell is too. And I saw that. I started picking up on that. I started seeing it. And I said, man, oh man, this is gonna be a tough one here, because you can't ask somebody, and I'm listening, folks, I'm listening to Stephanie White, get in the press conference and really doesn't even talk about Mitchell, but everybody's got to find a way all of a sudden to say we love Mitchell. No, you can't do that. Can't do that, guys. You just can't. And you're going to find yourself in a deeper hole. I'll tell you the hole you're talking about, you're going to find. I'll give you an example of a professional franchise. And the one I love, the San Francisco 49ers. San Francisco 49ers went to the Super Bowl last year and lost. They fired the defensive coordinator, Steve Wilkes. You left off such of a tornado from firing that now you're going to the Kansas City Chiefs world champions trying to pluck their defensive back coach to be your defensive coordinator. That man got in there, did that interview for the gracious, said, I would never, ever work for Kyle Shanahan. It got so bad in San Francisco, they had to send Kyle Shanahan away from the building. John Lynch told him, go do what you do so I could try to get this back together. 49ers couldn't get any players. 49ers couldn't get any coaches, okay, because, and all the African-American coaches left the 49ers. 49ers going downhill right now, all because one person made a wrong move firing somebody, right? Well, one person made a wrong move not playing Nalissa Smith as it's the Indiana Fever wanted to win this championship. Mitchell, that hurt bad. That hurt bad because she was out there giving you everything she had. And the Fever were like, no, Mitchell was horrible. No, Mitchell was never horrible, right? She was always been the same player, but you got to put it in perspective. Indiana Fever were horrible. I looked at your record. I looked at the number of coaches you've been in there. I looked at the turnover you've been in there. That was the bottom of the barrel. Now, this is the toughest part because I can tell you how the Fever got to do it, but the Fever are going to do it the way they want to do it, okay? You really can't start singling out players, okay? You really can't do that, right? Because now you're making an island. You're putting yourself on an island, okay? And you got to understand, man, this thing of basketball and women basketball, I haven't covered it yet. There's a couple things, there's three things the women are actually playing for. I'm doing the research on it now. They're playing for a culture. They're playing for activism, and they're also going to do a campaign, right? So you got three areas that they're looking: culture, activism, and campaigning for that, right? Because you got an inclusive. So they are not going to change from that, the WNBA player. In fact, I think it's so deeply rooted that the players, if you told the players, I'll pay each one of you $1 million if you just be silent, they wouldn't take the money, right? Because you cannot build that way. And, and I'll use an example of this because I've seen this happen before. And this is how I got to Elton Brand, right? I have a player, Darren Johnson, 6'6" guard, right? 6'6" guard, went to Washington and finished up at Fullerton. Reggie Theus ended up getting drafted G League. First round pick with the Sixers, right? Goes up there and we got Brett Brown. Brett Brown destroyed that organization. It's been destroyed ever since. One coach, right? Destroyed the whole organization, just running in guards. They're signing guys, exhibit 10, two ways, releasing them the next day. It just turned into a mess, right? And so when you get something like this and you get a player, and the player, this is the hardest part ever. If you don't connect with the player's checking out, right? But Mitchell's is, first of all, Mitchell's family uh, is in the priority of God, family, then work, right? That's her priority. She's a Christian young lady. She's not vocal. She's not loud. She doesn't do anything to embarrass the Indiana Fever organization. But the biggest thing, and you got to be cautious on this, when you draft players. I mean, you got to look at it. You had Justin Fields, right? Chicago Bears. Chicago's right up the street. You go get a new quarterback, Caleb Williams, and you got to look at it. Okay, the Bears, are they winning? It's not happening, right? So you can't go from last to first overnight, right? You can't be on this plan and you can't alienate yourself on an island. And that's what happened with Kelsey Mitchell. This was one of my hardest seasons I ever been through in basketball and in life because the first time I had to learn how to do it without my dad. Right. So that says it all. And folks, let me tell you something. I got a daughter getting ready to graduate, goes to HBCU, Shaw University, exercise science major, right? In my heart of heart, my daughter is going to be an NCAA women's softball coach, right? She knows the game. She's good at it. She's understanding, right? And so when we communicate, she always knows she has a father figure. I have my father behind me, right? So whatever happens, I can always go to my father. Kelsey Mitchell had to play this year without her father. Okay. And that was the one she went to, talked to, gave her peace of mind, pushed her, told her what her capabilities were. Now she doesn't have that. So she's got to gravitate to something else. The way she was able to survive in Indiana was because of her father. And you know what? They always believe God's got a plan. Now, for Kelsey Mitchell, she's saying, I love my mama. I love mom, ain't no doubt about it. And this is where you see with boys. Boys love their mama, girls love dad. They got a father figure, they're gonna gravitate to that because that's the most important thing to them. I love my mama like no other, but the love of my hoop, my dad and I share together, together. These are moments together, right? That can't be replaced. There's nothing else. I've got twin brothers, Kevin and Cameron, they're 32. I have a twin sister named Chelsea. My mama had two sets of twins, Kevin and Cam. Kelsey and Kelsey and Chelsea, the two K's and the two C's. Ha ha ha. She's a soldier, right? So you're going when you have twins, and you if you most of you know they're going to be close. They're going to be very close. But this one here just kind of touched me because I hadn't seen it, and I was working on the Chicago Sky, and this comes out, and I'm just reading through. I've been a daddy's girl, and I love my daddy to the core. I love my dad, right? I mean, that's how it is. Me and my daughter, we talk. I'm here. I'm here in California. She's in North Carolina. We always talk. We'll talk, and we end the conversation each and every time I say, "I love you, Chris." She says, "I love you too, Dad." That you can't get away from what her career has been in Indiana, and who held her together through that was Dad, right? So down south hoopers, talking about down south, okay, talking about the concrete jungle is what she's talking about. Now, for those of you who don't know what the concrete jungle is, in the inner cities, you go out to the playground and you play, right? And you play till the lights go off, right? So her dad introduced, you're gonna come play with these boys, you're gonna come learn how to play, you're gonna learn how to battle, you're gonna learn how to fight. And her dad put that in her. I mean, he told her, you're just as good. He told her, look, you may be this small, you may not be as tall as everyone else, but your heart is bigger than everyone else, and never back down from anyone. Right. So there you go. I mean, you got Kelsey Mitchell, and she did it. She had a great season. I couldn't guard them. She was talking about being on the court with the boys. I couldn't guard them to save my doggone life. Oh man, I'll never forget it. My dad calls timeout and he says, "Get your blank over here." Right? Toughen up is what he told her. Toughen up. Every Fever game. Tough up. You could do better. Watching every game. Dad watched every game she's ever played in his life. If there was something going on, maybe one or two, but he's seen them all. Because I know what that's like when you have a father that could do that, right? So you gotta know that. And she was young, saying, at the end of the day, I couldn't guard him. Okay. I couldn't guard him. But my dad was like, no, you are gonna guard him. I'm grateful to the Fever organization for taking me when they did, as they drafted Kelsey Mitchell and giving me an opportunity to be a part of this thing for as long as I have been, right? For as long as I have. Now, I can't make decisions, but I can tell you this, especially in the WNBA. I mean, there's a lot of stuff goes on, man. I'm not used to it. I'm not used to players getting treated that way. I'm not used to players having to be, just ridiculed. I'm just not used to it, right? And so and Stephanie White, man, this situation works for the Fever, but Stephanie White also left a lot of players at the Connecticut Sun, right? She left them. She left them. All right. She said, "This is what I'm gonna do. I'm out of here." And she said she did it for the sake of her career, right? That's a strong message, right? And then you have Kelly, the president, which I respect Kelly. I understand it, and I don't think Kelly meant this way, but it's a dangerous word to use when you got all these fireworks going on. We're trying to change the culture. We want to come to a different culture. So what does Stephanie White do? She bolts, leave those ladies there, right? They ain't got no coach, and then comes over to the Indiana Fever and say, "Oh yeah, everybody's a part of this. We're gonna have a great year." That's not how it's gonna work, folks. That ain't how it works. Right? This is not a song and dance. These players are not robots. right? They're human beings. They're human beings. And if you can't acknowledge them, okay, and do just like Tyler did, okay, I mean, this is what I'm saying. You can do this thing one or two ways. Both ways work. Both ways work, which means Stephanie White, coach long enough, that's going to work. Uh, Tyler Marsh, first year being a head coach, his methodology is going to work, right? Because you got two different ways. Fever don't develop players, right? Stephanie White doesn't develop players. So you got to look at that. And when you get to somebody now, you want these free agents to come. I tell you what, the Indiana Fever got to go overseas, right? They're gonna have to go overseas to find players, right? Because the whole situation of it puzzled me. I watched every game. I saw everything that went on, right? And that's when I figured out, okay, this is about a culture, this is about activism, and this is about a campaign that the women are doing. So even if you gave them the money, as everybody thinks this is about money, this is not about money with the WNBA players in the league. It's not about money. They're not fighting for more money, right? They're fighting for acceptance, and that may not be given to them. And now you got too many fires going on in the WNBA, and this is what concerns me, right? And this is a bad deal here. It's just too many fires going on, and the Indiana Fever, Kelsey Mitchell. I'm super grateful to the Fever organization. It's basically telling the Fever, thank you for everything that you've done. We got nothing but respect. We got nothing but love for you. If you're a real one, I'll rock with you. That's what she's saying. Kelsey Mitchell is a basketball player, and that's it. I mean, she comes in. I mean, you're going to get some players, they don't say much, they don't give you a hard time. And then you get other players that are very vocal, right? So, but for me, I understand it and I get it, right? Because I've coached them. So I can tell you this, if you're not connected, and Caitlin Clark is a really, really great basketball player, one of the better ones that you've ever seen. But I just couldn't swallow that Kelsey Mitchell would be signing to play behind her when her eyes have watched everything change for Caitlin, but you never made those changes for me. You never came when you drafted me. You never went to go get the players, the free agents. All this was 7 years of my career, and I asked for one thing: a deep playoff run, and she knew I couldn't do it if you got 80 minutes in two games and Alyssa Smith plays 2 minutes, plays 14 minutes, excuse me. And I get your understanding about Alyssa Smith and how the Fever fans feel, Caitlin Clark fans, generational player. I get it, but I don't really miss that part the way everyone else does. Everyone else is going to miss. For me, for Alyssa Smith, it's easy. You know what? Let me tell you how fast it works in grassroots. You see a player like Smith doing what she's doing, baby struggling. All you do is get her a plane ticket. You fly her out here to California, and I take over to see Gus. Okay, Gus Armstead. That's Eric Armstead's father, who's the 49ers and also was with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, he trained enough. I've seen it. I've been in the gym too much. I've seen 30, 40, 50 NBA guys in there working out, right? She just needs to come in and get trained up, right? And that's what we do. That's what player management is. You connect the players with the right trainer. That's why when Clutch went in there and signed Juju, Phil Handy, let's go, right? Phil probably was already doing it, no problem. That's what he does. Handy enjoys developing players, right? It's sometimes when you enjoy developing players, you like to see your work. That's why I was talking about Tyler. Tyler's going to want to see his work. Now, Stephanie White don't develop players. Stephanie White doesn't give you what it is. This is how it's going to go. This is where it's going to be. Now, can't win without no players. I don't care how good of coach you are. You cannot win with no players. And you can't do this under the word culture, because that's a word. And I'm going to tell you, I haven't covered it, but it's coming, because you got Carrington and Alyssa Smith. And that's what I'm talking about. You're talking about a culture. You're talking those two individuals. You're talking about a culture. You're talking about activism. Okay. And the two of them, that's called a campaign. Okay, and I'm really dissecting this down to the core, right? Because the women are really, it's not about money. Now, here's what's strange. This is where I can see things kind of unraveling. And if I'm Kathy Engelbert, this one's gonna hit my desk, and I'm gonna go, what? You got this was a problem, right? And I knew it was a problem because when you've been around it long enough, you can tell. Money Mike's gonna know. And one of the things I'm gonna tell you way in advance, I knew it was a problem with the general manager in Minnesota when Cheryl Reeves took the award. Right? I already knew. I said, how disrespectful can Reeves be when you got a general manager and you want to take the coach of the year and the president of the year? You know what that coach, that general manager bolted to unrivaled. You got general managers bolting over to unrivaled. Now, what kind of league you think Unrivaled really is? Because now they're taking general managers who have relationships with players. I'm gonna tell you, folks, this thing could get out of hand in a hurry, right? So with Kelsey, I'll tell you what Kelsey wants to do. Kelsey wants to go play for a championship. Okay, that if you look at her father's picture, he's got a ring on, right? Kelsey just wants to play for a championship. So, and at the end of the day, you can never get two superstars together. It's hard because if you're placing one above the other, which you have literally done, which is rightfully so, right? Because I didn't watch Kelsey Mitchell for the last 6 years. I don't know who coached Kelsey Mitchell. Okay. But if you go back to that time, and I'm looking at this 7 years ago. Somehow Stephanie White had to be in this. She had to be somewhere around this 7 years ago. You're talking about 8 years now that she had to be around. So automatically, Kelsey Mitchell has already been under Stephanie White's wing somehow, somewhere, someplace. And it's really like, you know what? I don't want to do it anymore, right? Because I already know what it's going to be. Okay. And then the Connecticut players are going to tell them what it's going to be. So this thing's going a little bit out of hand, but there's always prayer. There's faith with an understanding that all things are possible to those who believe. And in all honesty, I'll tell you, I'm going to be praying for the Indiana Fever. I really am, because this thing here, you only see the surface of what's going on. And this one here, I mean, Kathy, I don't know what to tell you, because when the players, okay, when you get players and you get people who are saying that nobody has a contract, you can go anywhere. So what does Kelsey Mitchell do? If coaches can go anywhere, I can go anywhere too, right? So at the end of the day, you know what? I don't want to be here anymore. Buy me out of my contract, right? Let's get rid of contract. If Melissa Smith says I don't want to be anymore, I'm not even showing up for camp, right? So you can go ahead and just buy out my contract and let's keep it moving, right? Because these women want to play, and they're not going to play in this structure. Everybody's not built for that, right? I mean, you got to realize that when you get a situation like this, and I'll just give you a men's basketball, NCAA men's basketball, right? You're gonna have certain players play for Bobby Huggins, right? Everybody can't play for Huggins, right? Huggins is a different type of coach, right? Then you gotta have certain players that can go in there and play for Coach K, right? I mean, that's Coach K, right? But you only can have certain guys that can deal with that every day. It's not fun, it's business, right? And then you get over there and you get over there with Coach Cal, right? Coach Cal's at Kentucky, goes over there to Arkansas. Everybody can't deal with Coach Cal, but if you can, you go into the league. Guaranteed, nonstop, no boat to take, right? You're going straight to the league. And all of Coach Cal's players do good. All of Coach K's players do good, right? So you got to look at that and say, man, these guys can coach, but at the end of the day, the program's not for everybody. I'm going to tell you this with the Indiana Fever and with an objective opinion. Yeah, you got some great coaches over there, but everybody ain't going to want to play for you. Okay, and that one there gonna set you back, right? Because now you're asking players to do something that they don't want to do, and when you do that, that one's gonna be a tough ticket. And I'll tell you where it's all gonna wind up. I know where it's all gonna wind, because the agents and everybody's gonna come in there and they're gonna say, well, what's our role? What's our role? How many minutes? What we can do? How many shots? See, they're smarter. Agents are smart enough to ask those questions, right? Because you want me to sign here as a free agent. So how's this going to work out for me, right? And that's a tough one. That's really tough, because the league itself is really just going through a tough time. And the Indiana Fever, I mean, they got everything in place. They have everything in place they need. Fever organization under Kelly, extremely strong, right? There's no doubt about it. I mean, Kelly's a pro, right? The president of the Indiana Fever. But Kelly, you can't go out in the garden and start growing players, right? You can't go out in the garden and get a number 2 draft pick that comes in. I go look at her film in Baylor, and this one shocked me, right? This one shocked me. I looked at what she was doing at Baylor and then what she did with the Indiana Fever. If you look at that film, folks, just go look at some Baylor highlights. You're going to see the spots on the floor. Everything she done is different, and that's bad because that tells me that the coaching was not very good on the development side, right? And if you can't develop the player, sooner or later it's going to be time for you to go. And that's a perfect example with L.A. Sparks. That coach can't coach Rickea Jackson. He's out of his time. These coaches that have been in this league for this much time, this league is over with that type of coaching. These players are too good, too fast, too quick, and you're sitting up there just spoiling out, can't get it together. And Stephanie White, you said a bad thing. I'll call it out. You said Connecticut being a coach here is damaging my career. I mean, you can't say that. You can't say that. So I wanted to come back home to be with my family and enjoy the culture. Okay, so in other words, you're saying that's a black culture and I need to go to a white culture. That's some bad words to be using, folks, in today's time, right? Because you ain't gonna be able to beat these ladies like a dead horse, right? But for Kelsey Mitchell, I'm gonna say this. Kelsey Mitchell, I'm praying for you. Love you. I know what kind of player you are, and I know how big your heart is, and I know what your dad meant to you. Okay. And I know he was with you every day, just like I'm with my daughter every day. And I stand on that as a father, right? That's just the way it is. I'm not one. I don't have children that I don't talk to every day. I talk. And me and my daughter, we talk. And if she goes a couple days and I don't talk to her, okay, what's going on? Right? What are you facing? Okay, how's this going to work? So she calls me continuously. After every game, Kelsey Mitchell would talk to her dad. Before the game, she would talk to her dad. She would see her dad in the stands at every game. You have to understand how much shallowness and how much emptiness that puts in you when you're trying to win. And I think she's saying, I gave you everything I had, everything I had. I didn't hold back for nothing, right? So now we got a little turn on. This is on shaky ground because what up? You fire GM. Well, the president leaves. The GM moves to the consultant role. The coach, Christie, decides is fired. And let's go, Kelsey. Let's play basketball. Don't work like that, folks. Now that you don't have no relationship with the coaches, now you got to go to a team to have relationship with the players because the players are picking up the phone going, you know what? You ought to come over here, right? Because we got a spot for you. They're going to recruit. Like you said, there's no tampering. There's no nothing in the WA. It's wide open, right? It's wide open. Stephanie White could be the coach of the Indiana Fever today, could be coaching the Liberty tomorrow, right? Okay, because at the end of the day, here's what the Indiana going to feel, going to really understand when you get to Stephanie White. Indiana Fever, your fans and everybody, you're extremely loyal to Stephanie White, right? You're extremely loyal. I salute you on that. And I have nothing but respect. But the mutual part of that is Stephanie White as loyal to the Indiana fans as you are to her. That's the question I have. Because if things get rocky and don't work out, will Stephanie White leave again? See, that's a dangerous game you're playing because now you have to stay, draft players, develop them. All that you have to do, right? And that's a tough ticket, folks. But it was in the Tribune, and Kelsey Mitchell, that was a bombshell that just hit me. Good ball player, good person. And I'll tell any Fever fans before you react, or you can hit me in the comments, and you know what? We'll just go live on this one. That's what I'm going to do for the Indiana Fever fans. They want me to go live. Everybody's calling, go live, do this, do that. Well, this is one I need to go live on. And I got an open mind, but this thing here, I'll just tell you, there's another way of doing it. And when you deal with players, you just got to make sure, okay, that you don't disparage, you don't talk negatively about them, because it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. Like you're saying, Kelsey was here because I think I was seeing something about Lexi Hall's had 4 coaches. I mean, that's too many coaches. That's like you get some NFL quarterbacks, the team is so bad, you go through 6 coaches, right? You've had 6 different offensive coordinator. Alex Smith was drafted number 1 by the 49ers. And he went through 6 offensive coordinators. Can you imagine learning a playbook each and every year? Can you imagine after Christie sides put all that in, now you got to rip it all out. You got to go back and do it again with Stephanie White. That's going to take time, man. The players, these young, I'll tell you another thing, a little secret, and you put it to the test. I'm going to put all the dads, all your dads out there, I'm going to give you a little secret. You put it to the test, and I want you to do this so you'll understand how connected your players are. There are players out there that cannot understand a clipboard. So when you're coaching sixth, seventh, eighth grade, ninth grade, 10th, draw something up on the clipboard and have all five players watch it, watch you do it, and then turn around and have them in the clipboard and see if they could do it. You'll be shocked, right? You'll be shocked because the ladies just shake their head. They have no idea what you're talking about, right? So at the end of the day, I just come to tell you this. Mitchell is a great person. Kelsey Mitchell is a franchise point guard, right? The Indiana Fever, it's some soul searching because you can kick her out the door. You can listen to this Money Mike fire back and say, man, we're going to kick her right through the goalpost, right? Let her go. You could be that way. Okay, but you got to understand when you start doing that, then who you going to go get to replace her? Because you can't, there isn't a player out there that you're going to replace that's going to come into the Indiana Fever. I mean, the league is not that simple, okay, but it happened. I say to Kelsey Mitchell, keep your head up. And I know every time I speak, I don't have a gatekeeper, so you got people out there that going to listen. Kelsey Mitchell, you're a franchise point guard. Kelsey Mitchell, you keep your head up. And your dad put you in these positions for one reason and one reason only, because he knew you were strong enough and he knew you had the heart. He knew you were small in stature, that you were never going to be 6 feet, but don't let that stop you. And that's what made you the player, Kelsey Mitchell, you are today. Now, we understand this is a journey and it's God's will. No one can guide or keep us, but it comes through prayer. And that's all I ask. I ask the Indiana Fever fans, you just got to be in prayer. Now, some of you can tell me, Mike, you're crazy, but this is real life, folks. And I watch these ladies closely, and I can tell by the movement of their bodies. And me, I'm all about intangibles. I look how the ladies sit down. I can tell when they cross their legs. You know, when a player crosses their legs, they're done, right? They're done. If you ever see a player cross their legs on a bench, I'm all the coaches out here. If you ever see a player cross their legs while they're playing basketball or women's basketball, they're done. Everything you said to them is checked out, right? So I just say to say this, it's a changing of the guard. I didn't expect to hear this or see this from Kelsey Mitchell, but she's had a long plane ride over to China. She's had some isolation time in her prayer closet, and she elected to say, I thank you for the 7 years that you have given me. She did it in first class. She didn't disparage the organization, but she understood I went through tough times since I was drafted here, and to be last in the league when I'm one of the best players in the league. And Kelsey Mitchell's been able to do this ever since she walked into Indiana. It was just that Indiana Fever chose not to allow her to do it. Now she's at the stage. She can go anywhere she wants, right? And this, what this reminds me of? Reminds me of the movie 101, right? So some of you guys saw that's classic, right? But the coach wanted to pull a scholarship. He says, I ain't going to do it. Let him go on out there. He battled back, and then he won the end of the game. And he says, hey, you can play anywhere. The coach says, yeah, about your scholarship. Don't. He says, don't do that, coach. I can go anywhere and get a scholarship now, right? So don't be with Kelsey. Just understand it's not about, okay, her coming and being in a position or playing second fiddle, because she can go anywhere she wants now. The proof side of the bag. But I'm in prayer. I like the Indiana Fever. If it works out, I'd love to see Kelsey stay with the Indiana Fever. It's a lot of time between now and then, but at the end of the day, man, I'll tell you this, and this is something where you really can't. I can't control the Fever fans. I understand social media, but instead of throwing the bullets at the players, throw them at Money Mike. Hit me with the bullets. I could take the bullets. You can tell me I'm off my rocker. You can tell me I'm crazy, right? I could do it. But at the end of the day, folks, I just want to tell you, these are real human beings, and somewhere, somehow, I just want you to know that what we do, it's hard. It's hard here, folks. It's not easy, and but it'll work itself out because all things are possible to those who believe, and all of this was predestined before the foundation of the world. This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio podcast. Kelsey Mitchell sends a letter from the Tribune speaking her mind. And basically, if you're a real one, Kelsey Mitchell's father was her everything. She loved him with all her heart. And I salute you, Kelsey. You keep your head up high and understand God is in control. He will order thy steps. All things are possible to those who believe. This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio podcast. We are powered up by fanatics and we are praying for you, Kelsey Mitchell. We will see you soon.